Imagine a time when fearsome warriors sailed the seas, their dragon-headed ships cutting through the misty waters of the north. A time when the sound of battle cries echoed across the coastlines of Europe and distant lands trembled at the approach of the Norsemen. These were the Vikings, fierce raiders, intrepid explorers, and skilled traders who left an indelible mark on the medieval world. But the Vikings were more than just the savage marauders often depicted in popular culture. They were a complex society with their own traditions, beliefs, and innovations. From their origins in the cold, harsh lands of Scandinavia, they ventured out into the unknown, exploring new territories, establishing trade routes, and even settling in distant lands as far as North America. In this video, we'll dive into the world of the Vikings, exploring who they were, how they lived, and the lasting impact they've had on history. We'll separate myth from reality and take you on a journey through the Viking Age, from its rise to its eventual decline. Join us as we uncover the true story of the Vikings, one of history's most fascinating and misunderstood civilizations. To truly understand the Vikings, we must first look at where they came from. The Vikings hailed from Scandinavia, a region comprising modern-day Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. These lands, known for their rugged terrain and harsh climates, shaped the Viking people into resilient, resourceful, and fiercely independent individuals. The Viking Age, which spanned from the late 8th century to the early 11th century, was a time of significant change and upheaval in Scandinavia. The population was growing, resources were scarce, and the fragmented political landscape led to internal strife. These conditions set the stage for the Viking expansion, as many sought new opportunities through exploration, trade, and of course, raiding. But what made the Vikings so effective as both explorers and conquerors? It was their exceptional seafaring skills and the design of their iconic longships. These ships were fast, agile, and capable of navigating both open seas and shallow rivers, allowing the Vikings to reach far-flung destinations with ease. Their mastery of the sea enabled them to travel vast distances, from the coasts of North America to the rivers of Russia, leaving their mark on each region they encountered. The Viking raids, which began in earnest in the late 8th century, were driven by a combination of economic need, political ambition, and the allure of wealth in the form of silver, gold, and other valuables. Monasteries, which were often wealthy and poorly defended, became prime targets, with the infamous raid on Lindisfarne in 793 AD marking the beginning of the Viking Age in the eyes of many historians. However, it's important to remember that the Vikings were not just raiders, they were also traders and settlers. They established trade routes that connected Scandinavia with the rest of Europe, as well as the Byzantine Empire and the Islamic world. These interactions brought wealth, cultural exchange, and new ideas back to their homelands, further enriching Viking society. As we move forward, we'll explore the complexities of Viking culture and society, shedding light on the everyday lives of these remarkable people and the legacy they left behind. Viking society was as complex and structured as any other of its time. At the top of the social hierarchy were the kings and chieftains, known as jarls, who ruled over their lands and people with authority. Below them were the carls, the free men who made up the majority of the population. These were the farmers, craftsmen, and warriors who worked the land, built homes, and defended their communities. At the bottom of the social structure were the thralls, or slaves, who were often captured during raids and forced into servitude. Family was central to Viking life. The household, or longhouse, was the heart of the community, where extended families lived together under one roof. These longhouses were large communal spaces made of wood and thatch. designed to withstand the harsh Scandinavian winters. Inside, life revolved around the hearth, where meals were prepared, stories were told, and warmth was shared. Religion played a vital role in Viking society. The Vikings practiced a form of paganism, worshiping a pantheon of gods and goddesses, each with their own domain and personality. Odin, the All-Father, was the god of wisdom, war, and death, often depicted as a one-eyed wanderer. Thor, with his mighty hammer Mjolnir, was the protector of mankind and the god of thunder. Freya, the goddess of love and fertility, was also associated with war and death. These deities were central to the Viking worldview, influencing everything from daily life to warfare. Rituals and sacrifices were a common part of Viking religious practice, often conducted to gain the favor of the gods or ensure a good harvest. The Vikings believed in an afterlife, with the most famous being Valhalla, the Hall of the Slain, where warriors who died bravely in battle were said to feast with Odin until the end of the world. Despite their fearsome reputation, the Vikings were also skilled craftsmen and artists. They created intricate jewelry, weapons, and tools, often adorned with detailed carvings and symbols. Their art, known as Norse art, is characterized by its use of interwoven patterns, animals, and mythological themes. This art was not only decorative, but also served as a means of telling stories and preserving their culture. As we delve deeper into the Viking Age, it's clear that the Vikings were a people of contrasts: warriors and farmers, raiders and traders, pagans and poets. Their society was as rich and multifaceted as the lands they explored, and their legacy continues to influence us today. The Vikings are perhaps best known for their far-reaching exploration and the fearsome raids that struck terror across Europe. But beyond the tales of bloodshed and conquest, the Vikings were also pioneers who pushed the boundaries of the known world. Their raids began in the late 8th century with the infamous attack on the Lindisfarne monastery in 793 AD, marking the start of what is often called the Viking Age. These early raids were lightning-fast strikes, where Viking longships would appear suddenly along the coastlines, plundering and retreating before local forces could mount a defense. The monasteries, which were often wealthy and poorly defended, became prime targets, and the riches they seized fueled further raids. However, as time went on, Viking activities expanded far beyond mere raiding. They began to settle in the lands they once plundered, establishing colonies in places like Ireland, Scotland, and northern England. The Vikings founded cities such as Dublin and York, which became important centers of trade and governance. But the Viking spirit of exploration didn't stop at Europe's shores. They were some of the most skilled sailors of their time, with ships that could traverse both the open ocean and shallow rivers. This ability allowed them to reach distant lands, including Iceland, where they established a thriving community, and Greenland, where they settled under the leadership of Eric the Red. The most remarkable of their voyages was the journey to North America, nearly 500 years before Columbus. Around the year 1000 AD, Leif Erikson, the son of Eric the Red, set sail from Greenland and reached the shores of what is now Newfoundland, Canada. They called this new land Vinland, a testament to the wild grapes they found growing there. Although the Viking presence in North America was brief and did not lead to lasting colonization, it remains a significant chapter in the history of exploration. Viking expansion wasn't just limited to the west. They also moved eastward, navigating the rivers of Russia and establishing trade routes that reached as far as the Byzantine Empire and the Islamic caliphates. These Eastern Vikings, known as the Rus, played a key role in the formation of the Russian state and were heavily involved in the trade of goods, like furs, slaves, and silver. Their reach was vast, and their impact was profound. Whether as raiders, settlers, or traders, the Vikings left their mark on nearly every region they touched. Their exploration and expansion were driven by a combination of necessity, opportunity, and a desire for wealth and adventure, making them one of the most influential groups in medieval history. In the next section, we'll explore how the Vikings balanced their fearsome reputation as raiders with their equally important role as traders, and how they influenced the cultures they encountered.